So I'm looking at Director De Leon. Can we get this done in 20 minutes? He's saying yes. Is the board okay with continuing with the next item? All right, let's go ahead and move forward.
Good.
This is our 11 o'clock item. Consideration and presentation of the Soda Bay Corridor Evacuation Route Planning and Maintenance Grant Project, and B, consideration and approval of the Soda Bay Corridor Evacuation Plan prepared by Headway Transportation Consultants. And I'm just going to have a quick pause. I know we have other staff in the room that are waiting their items. We will take a lunch and come back at 2 o'clock, and we'll go ahead and take up those other items at that time. Thank you for your patience. Director De Leon.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Scott De Leon, Public Works Director. Yes, I will make every effort to be brief. We have a two-part item for you today. First is simply a presentation and information about the grant that we just completed. And then part B is a presentation by Headway Transportation, who was one of the consultants that worked on this project, and she's going to present the evacuation plan that was developed. And then finally, as part of that, Part B, we are asking your board to take action in approving that plan. So you can, I'm not going to read each slide. This is just for general information. These are the project partners. CAL FIRE and California Fire Safe Council was who we got the grant through. Public Works clerk played a huge role in this, and we'll talk just briefly about that. I mentioned Headway Transportation. They were the consultant that prepared the evacuation plan, Canocti Fire Safe Council, and all of the HOA representatives from the various subdivisions along the route. This is a map of the route. It's basically from Clark Drive at the far west end of the corridor, and then it extends through the communities of Soda Bay, through Buckingham, Riviera West, past Canocti Harbor. You can see there in the center of the corridor, and then out Point Lakeview Road was the defined Soda Bay corridor, and all the communities that are attached to that. The goal was to create a plan to remove hazardous vegetation. Actually, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Here are the project objectives. Develop an evacuation plan for the entire corridor, perform hazardous vegetation removal, targeting trees that could fall on the road and block the corridor. The corridor is basically one way in, one way out, depending on which direction you're trying to travel. So we really targeted trees that could block the route. There was a small component of the project where the county was purchasing a masticator head for the use by County Road Department to perform vegetation maintenance, and the total grant funding was $380,000. Our strategy for completing the project, following the county consultant selection process, we hired Headway Transportation to complete the evacuation plan. We contracted with CLERC, the Clear Lake Environmental Research Center, to manage the hazardous vegetation removal portion of the project. If you recall, we brought an item to your board to contract with them directly. They have significant experience managing multiple grants, millions of dollars worth of grants for very similar projects. And we were lucky enough to bring them on board, and they did a fantastic job managing that portion. And then, of course, the county purchased the masticator, and the background photo that you see there, and I'm gonna provide a couple of example photos, but the background photo that you see there is some finished work using that masticator head. Some of the details, clerk completed the removal of 107 hazardous trees along the corridor, which is approximately 16 miles in length. There was a tremendously collaborative effort between the Canocti Fire Safe Council, the HOA representatives, and clerk through the identification of the trees, contact with the property owners, obtaining rights of entry. It was a fantastic effort. Headway Transportation, again, is going to present following this short presentation. And then we are about 60% complete on the vegetation management in the corridor. And finally, a few photographs. The one on the right is an example of a dead or dying large tree that is very near to the roadway. If that were to fall during an evacuation event, you can imagine the trouble that would present, folks trying to get out or emergency folks trying to get in. So those are the types of trees that we targeted. And then the picture on the left is that tree has been removed. Some examples of the clearing work that was done. The picture on the left is Point Lakeview Road. If you can imagine the brush that you see on the left side of the roadway there, that extended right down to the edge of pavement. So there quite a bit of clearing there on both sides of the road. And then the picture on the right is a portion of Soda Bay Road right where it turns into Highway 281 and some of the work that was done there. And I guess that's it. I think in closing, one of the things that I think this project was successful, but I think more importantly, it really fostered a lot of community involvement, and it has been kind of the kickoff to a number of other projects. The state's doing a lot of work. Clerk continues to do a lot of work. There's an effort through the APC for evacuation plans, countywide evacuation plans. So I really believe this project kicked off and created a lot of energy around this type of work. And so relatively small, if you think about, it's only 107 trees considering the total number of trees that probably need to be taken out. But again, it started a revolution, if you will, on this. So I'm be happy to try to answer any questions. I don't know if there's anyone from any of the agencies that we've mentioned, clerk or the Fire Safe Council, that I don't know if anyone's online or that would like to speak. I'll also recognize Terry sitting in the audience, also just a tremendous resource and help through the entire process. So.
Well, I think through this collaborative effort, we all, now we can see that we have so many more opportunities to work together, to co-write these grants together, to implement. It just hadn't been done before, and we're always talking about capacity, and this way we were able to leverage everyone's strengths. And it's kicked off a lot. And so I want to thank you, Scott. I know you always have a lot on your plate, but you made this a priority. And we were able to bring in the partners that we know can deliver. And now we've built out that network now that we have in our county. So this is a really good template for us to move forward collaboratively.
Thank you. Yeah, I drove through the corridor this morning and Public Works crews are out there working hard with the masticator head. Tara was in the Black Forest area getting ready to do some work. So yeah, just.
In the CAL FIRE Caltrans
Yes.
masticator too.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you.
It's a much safer community and people can see it. And that's the most important thing. They want to know that we're doing work and they want to be able to see it.
So that's the end of my presentation. Be happy to try to answer any questions. And I know Lauren Piku is on Zoom here and prepared to make a presentation about the evacuation plan.
Okay. If there's no pens up, let's go ahead and move on with the next presentation.
Hi, I'm Lauren with Headway. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Thank you for having me here today to talk about the evacuation plan. It was certainly an honor to work on it. And Scott, do you have the presentation that you'd like to play, or
About to
should I do
be
it
shared in a
screen?
second.
Yeah, Lauren, we're about to have this queued up here, and I think we're ready. So if you want to just tell me when to advance, if you can see the screen there, we're on your first slide.
Yep, good to go. This is just the intro slide, so you can go ahead and advance that one. Okay, so we'll start with the plan purpose. This was a California Fire Safe Council grant-funded effort, and we really collaborated on what we wanted out of this plan. And the main items were we wanted to provide the public with straightforward and key information with the goals of helping them to prepare their own personal evacuation plan. Certainly key to this was that we wanted multi-agency coordination, and we wanted to bring all of the partners together to talk about different strategies. We wanted to provide a guide for emergency responders that could be used in real-time evacuation decision-making. And that was everything from providing information on the roadway network, to providing maps, to providing potential pinch points, potential temporary shelters, and any sort of information that could be used in an emergency situation. Very importantly, we wanted to identify short-term and long-term improvements that could facilitate an evacuation. And that could be anything, and it was anything from roadway improvements, intersection improvements, continued efforts for fuel reduction projects, maintenance, and other community preparedness, ways to get out information, anything that could help to facilitate an evacuation. And we also wanted to provide resources to assist the public with education in terms of evacuation. We focused, our plan was more about evacuation, so it did not talk about things, like how to pack an emergency kit and things like that, but we provided the links and information to where the public could get that information. So you can go to the next slide. This was the plan area, which Scott talked about. It focused on Soda Bay Road, State Route 281, and Point Lakeview Road, and then specifically the communities and the intersections within that corridor. So you can move to the next one. We had a long list of stakeholders. Each stakeholder participated at different levels, but there was a multi-agency coordination, and then we also reached, and I'll talk more about the multi-agency coordination in another slide, but we also reached out to these stakeholders various times throughout the project for input, information, and they were all very helpful and a wealth of knowledge, so much appreciated to them. You can go to the next one. Public outreach. So key to this project was public outreach and making sure that we had lots of community engagement. We had two specific outreach events. The first one was towards the beginning of the project. It was in September of 2023. It was an in-person meeting. It was at the Riviera Heights Clubhouse. And the purpose of that one was a project introduction. So we wanted to inform the public that we were putting this plan together and just start collecting information. So we had a survey just to gather some information just, related to demographics, how, different members of the public were using the community roadway network, information on if you had a personal plan and how you receive information and prefer to receive information. And then there was an opportunity for just any public or just any comment, any suggestion, recommendation. Our next specific public outreach event was in February of this year. It was another in-person meeting, and that was to give the public a chance to review the plan and provide comments on it. So we had a public comment period that started in early February, so that people had a chance, and we released a draft copy of the report on the Lake County website. And we put out several mailers and information packets to try and inform the public that this draft plan was ready for review and that they could read it. From that point, they could either provide comments by clicking on a link and going straight to a place to put in comments, or there was a open house. And at that open house, we had copies of the report, we had maps out, and we had various team members around so that the public could come. They could watch a video presentation on what was in the plan. They could flip through the plan. They could go to a map. They could ask any questions. And there was an opportunity at that meeting to leave handwritten comments or to fill out an online form with comments. Also very important was we had a multi-agency meeting. This was conducted in June of last year, and this was an online meeting because we wanted agencies to have as much availability as possible to participate, and we invited everyone that you saw on that stakeholders list. Many of them attended. It was really just to get everyone in the same room and talk about evacuation. We had a kind of list of topics, but we also just let the conversation to go where it needed to go. Some of the main things that were discussed was just evacuation, communication, and strategies. If an evacuation was called, what agencies would fill which roles, how communication or how information was shared within the agencies, and then also with the public. And then we also sat down and talked about, okay, what are some short and long-term needs to make that roadway network more resilient, to facilitate an evacuation, or just to anything related to evacuation that could be a project. Okay, next one. So plan components, we do have a copy of the report. It's still on the Lake County website. It goes through many different, covers a lot of different topics in a lot of different areas. I'm just going to go through kind of some of the main ones. Of course, afterwards, I'm happy to talk about any more parts of the report specifically or go into any more detail, but just as an overview, the first thing it did in the first chapter was just talk about an assessment of the current protocols and procedures. And that's, for the public to be aware of too, just in the event of an evacuation, how is information shared? What is the general roles, responsibilities, and procedures that would happen? We also did an evaluation of the roadway network. And some of the key things we were looking for was areas with single access, any intersections that may be pinch points during an evacuation, any roadway vulnerabilities that we view as possibly being a hindrance during an evacuation. The report documents the multi-agency collaboration and the public engagement and all of the outreach comments and everything we got back from it. The report goes into a lot of the current initiatives that are underway because the Connecticut Fire Safe Council has done a tremendous effort already in talking to the community, getting information out, starting programs. So we wanted to make sure that we documented everything that was currently being done so it could help identify what additional things needed to be done. We have a section on vulnerable populations where we talk about the best ways to get information out to vulnerable populations, and then also some strategies to help these populations develop an evacuation plan. The report talks about alternate modes of transportation. One of the big topics that came up was the use of the lake and boats as a potential evacuation source. So we go through that and talk about transit, school buses, other modes other than just the single vehicle. And then we kind of end the report with a list of potential projects. We take every chapter and every section that we discuss in that report, and we put that together in a list of projects, and we identify what those projects could be. Are these kind of short, medium, long term, same thing with cost, and then some potential funding strategies for them. So we would go to the next slide. We try to include a lot of high quality graphics that again could be used for the public or both emergency responders, just maps of the community showing which of those areas and communities or neighborhoods had single access. Go to the next slide. We also just have a map of the corridor identifying what the evacuation routes are, what a potential contraflow section could be, and the report does talk a great deal about contraflow and the pros and cons and some strategies that should be considered for implementing contraflow, and it identifies the intersections as well. And then finally, as I discussed, we have a whole section on project recommendations, and those could be anything from very low cost and short-term projects that could be implemented very quickly to, of course, roadway projects, additional access projects, things that would be more long-term and higher cost, and then potential funding sources for all the projects. So I think that is the last slide. Yes, this is just a questions and thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions. I have a copy of the report pulled up on my computer. Scott, I don't know if you have one handy, but I'd be happy to answer any questions, go into any more details about some of the report sections.
Thank you for your presentation, Ms. Piku.
Lauren, thank you so much. You were a dream to work with. You covered everything. You came out for a couple visits, kept everybody on task. So I just can't say enough good things about our experience working with you. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. I absolutely the same. It was a joy to work with everyone on this project.
Are there any other comments or questions regarding Supervisor Green?
Yeah, just maybe semantic, but various references kind of jump between collector and arterial. When we go looking for money to improve roads and stuff like that, I want to make sure the roads involved in this map, to my understanding, are all collectors, right? They're not arterials.
I believe so.
I think Soda Bay is an arterial.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? I'll just make a quick comment. It's got nothing to do with the plan itself, but I know in reading through it, one of the evacuation alternatives is the boats and utilizing the lake. Is Brado's the only place that we have our Marine Patrol boats stationed at? I know we had to move them during the drought, and my belief and assumption is that is the primary spot that we place those boats. And if that's true, that seems not wise to place it in a place that has limited access if there's going to be a fire right there where we're asking for a boat rescue. And maybe we need to look at alternative placements and not just in the Brado's area, just to make sure that, because I think our Marine Patrol would be the best. It would be awesome if we had the public helping out with those things too, but having our OES manage and trying to work on those things, but having your boats trapped behind a wall of fire and not being able to access it in an area that we obviously have identified as being a hard-to-access area during fires, hence the evacuation plan.
It's not trapped, though, because you can still access it by water. So, I mean, OES and the sheriff and the flotilla were all very involved in the plan.
Well, I just wanted to make the comment that it would be nice to see multiple areas that we can put our boats in to ensure that there's a quick and easy access rather than waiting for someone else to come help us. But other than that, we need to have these plans in order to keep people safe and making sure that we're doing what we need to have the environment we require in these times. So, Supervisor Green?
Yeah, and not to belabor it, but just since you raised it, I think if there was any major area of concern in this, it's that boat or water-assisted rescue is not particularly feasible in any way. Even if we could get traffic down there, they'd be fighting the traffic, trying to get out of there. And then if you were to get down to Brado's or something like that, limited land space that would shelter people while they were waiting for boats, and definitely a limited capacity for those boats that are down there to do any meaningful amount of evacuation. And I only highlight that because knowing that the boats themselves and the boat owners are not going to be adequate to do some type of Dunkirk operation, that doesn't mean we shouldn't consider the possibility and consider other things like floating docks that may be a little bit more effective as people movers. But it is what it is, and I appreciate that they did at least look at that alternate mode of evacuation. But
I'll say there was extensive conversations about this and planning. So had you not been in the meetings, I can understand, but there were so many conversations about this. So this has been very thoroughly vetted in this report.
Thank you for your comment. And let's go ahead and open it up for public comment. I see nobody getting up. And I see no hands in Zoom, so bring it back. We need action on Part B.
All right, I move that we approve the evacuation plan for the Soda Bay corridor and surrounding communities dated March 15th, 2024, as prepared by Headway Transportation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 24 minutes, almost in time.